I sat there from 11 o'clock that night until 6 o'clock that morning. And I was as happy as I could be just because of that first time experience. And it was a lot of studying besides even going to school. But one thing I do know is that when you plant, say if you're going to plant a tomato and say beans, and you put them in the ground, there's certain things you got to do to let them come up. Once you got to water them, you got to weed them and all like that. But once they come up and you see the first two leaves on each one of them, they look exactly alike. They are called the true leaves. You don't know what that person or what that plant has become until those leaves fall off and the next ones come up after you have cultivated them properly.
What does it take to have a successful life? There are numerous books written about it as far as success and achievement. How valuable is it to listen to those that are successful? Do you feel that there's something that you could gain by listening to what they have to say? Are you where you want to be in life? Are you concerned about your children's future? Mom, Dad, gather around, get the kids, or share this with them, because the person that I'm about to present to you is a local heavyweight. He's just that important. When he was in high school, he was a student council president as well as the student body president, and he's continued to have tremendous success. So I think he's worth listening to, don't you? Stay tuned. Hi, this is Robert Wilkins, aka Basketball Talk. Welcome to my channel. I'm glad that you're with me here today because I have someone that you really need to hear from. He is an awesome individual, someone who I looked up to at an early age, even though we were in high school at the same time, but he was an upperclassman. But let me tell you a little bit about this guy. His name is Ross Slags, and he lives in Monroe, Louisiana. He was a board member with the Ouachita Economic Development Corporation. He was also a board member with Strauss Theater. He's also a deacon at his church at Bethel Baptist Church, as well as a Prince Hall Mason and Shriner. He's also a gospel concert artist representative. He's also a past owner operator of Club Domino's and Club Koosh. And to say even more, the executive director of the Northeast Louisiana African American Museum from June 2018 to the present. And also currently the union president with the International Alliance of Theatrical Agents and Stage Employees. And furthermore, for you youngsters out there, and for those of you that still have dreams, he was a captain of the fire department in the city of Monroe. Wow. So welcome with me, Ross Slags. Hey, Ross, how are you?
Hey, hi, Robert. How's it going with you?
It's going great, going really good.
I'm glad to be here.
Oh, I'm glad that you accepted the invitation. You know, the thing is, I remember you back in the day, you was always a leader. You always stood out front, even in front of the student body while on stage addressing their entire school. You know, you were someone that I admired, really.
Oh, thank you.
Because,
I just tried to emulate the people that I were around. You know, most of the people that I grew up around were in leadership positions or wanted to be in leadership positions. And I kind of learned from them that, in order to speak up and effect a change, you have to get in front of an audience of people.
So you had no fear of public speaking early on.
I really didn't have any fear. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was in high school, we took a course, a Dale Carnegie course of effective speaking. And so they had contests, and I immediately won impromptu speech champion. So it just comes natural to speaking.
And here you are today. You've been on so many boards, as well as you're talking about right now, currently, you're the executive director of the Northeast Louisiana African American Museum.
Yes, and I consider it a privilege to be the executive director. We've only had 3 directors in the over 20-year history of the museum. It was founded by Miss Nancy Johnson, who Reverend Johnson, I'm sure you remember, he was the assistant principal.
Yes,
at Wasson.
I remember him.
Well, his wife is the one who started. It was her dream. Her and my mother were best friends. And so after she passed about 15 years ago, my mother took over as executive director. She stayed executive director until she passed 3 years ago. And then the board elected me as executive director. So we hadn't had a lot of us, but we all had the same vision and the same dream.
Boy, you're talking about, you said dream.
Oh, and yes.
The you live the dream.
Yeah. The dream is very important. It started with Nancy Johnson. She wanted something that could reach out and not be just a museum, but something to reach out to the, the poorest parishes in the nation collectively. And we wanted to let them know that there was something they could become besides athletes or entertainers. And that's what she wanted you to know, that we can do other things in society. And so that's what this museum is built around.
Wow. Wow. You said something I think that's very important. And I think especially for the youth out there today, because we have a tendency to put all our eggs in one basket. And, when you talked about, sports, basically, and we have a tendency to do that. We put everything in the football, basketball, or whatever, and we fail to see these other opportunities out there. And when school is out and over, and the thing is, for those that are athletes and we put so much energy into it, we have a tendency sometimes when we fail and not reaching that ultimate goal of the NBA or NFL, we find ourselves somewhat a little frustrated. And I've seen this. So what you just said, I found very important. And I think that the kids out there, even those adults that haven't, lived their dreams yet, something they need to start paying attention to.
Yeah, I think what you said is very important. We've got to learn to diversify. We can't put our eggs in one basket. That's why when you go to school, they have all of these different subjects to study, so you can diversify your mind and think of other things besides just having tunnel vision. Yes. Like a racehorse, when you put blinders on them, they only go where you turn them to go. And that's the way we don't want to be like that, because once you put blinders on and you say, well, look, I'm going to be an athlete and that's all I can think about, you can't see all the things in your peripheral vision that you should be a part of. And that's what we got to learn. That's what we're trying to teach them, that when we talk about the arts there, or the museum, the art encompasses a lot of things. It's just not painting, but it's also the singing. It's also quilt making. It's a lot of different things that we can do that a lot of people are making very good livings doing. And we got to learn we can do the same thing.
Yes, yes. Thank you for that. That was very important. So I see the International Alliance of Theatrical Agents and Stage Employees, and you're the union president. Please explain that.
Okay, what we do, this is one of the largest unions in the United States. It's an international union, and basically what we do we do lights, sounds, theatrical work, movies, television productions. If you ever watch Paramount station or movies made by Paramount, those are strictly all union employees of the union that I belong to. We have a local union here in Louisiana, and we do we have like 5 in Louisiana, but we do quite a bit of work. Most sound engineers and lighting technicians that you see in this area belong to the union that I'm a member of. The interesting thing about that union is that when I first became there almost 20 years ago, I was the only Black in that union. And it still is, there's only one other Black in the union. But I became president in the Deep South with a unanimous vote of the white population, which I think is interesting, because we always say that we can't work together, but if you prove yourself worthy to do the things that helps everyone, I think that you can all accomplish those.
Thank you for saying what you said. Several months ago, I had your state representative on my channel, Pat Thomas Moore, and she talked about giving kids exposure, exposing kids to things. And what you're doing right now, you're exposing those that are listening to this right now, different avenues of opportunities out there. And here I noticed that you were a fire captain. So therefore you are a fireman, but not just that, you rose to the rank of captain. Please share with us, how did that come about?
Okay, the first job that I really had, well, the last 9 to 5 per se job I really had was as a fireman. I became a fireman really off of a whim. They were looking for a fireman at that time, and I didn't have a job that I really was interested in. And so I decided to become a firefighter. It's a rigorous training. You can't be afraid of heights. You can't be claustrophobic and those different kind of things. But I learned that once you become a fireman, you are part of a fraternity. Most of these people who are firemen are family oriented. In other words, their sons, their grandsons, their fathers, their grandfathers, they all were firemen. So it's kind of like a close-knit family. And their whole purpose is to save lives. I mean, even the training, when we study or train, it is strictly to save lives and to save property. So you did get a sense of being one family. And I think it kind of helped me grow as a person because it showed me, I had a lot of empathy for people once you could see them in different situations. Because once we showed up, a lot of those people are not able to take care of themselves anymore. They've lost everything they had. You even go out and deliver babies. You go to false alarms and you have to calm people down. So dealing with the public was a very fulfilling thing for me at that time.
You know, one thing about it is that as a fireman, it's one of those jobs that everyone, especially the kids, we all looked up to.
Oh yeah, kids love them.
Oh yeah, it's such an honorable profession.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of feel like a hero sometimes because when you're in the truck and you're up high, you know, sometimes you're standing on the rail when you're getting through fighting fires and you see all of the kids and they're just waving and you're just waving back and it makes you feel really like a hero.
You are a hero because when you're called to a scene to assist in a matter where there's a potential fire. And, you know, there are times you may have to rescue somebody, especially to stamp out that fire. So therefore, you are a hero.
Yeah, and it's not like you see on TV, you know, when you run into a burning house and you see flames everywhere. As soon as you walk in the house, it's pitch darkness. And you have to learn from experience and rely on other people in order to make it out alive yourself, because you're basically feeling around. There's a pattern in which you go, but you can't see anything. It's not like what you see on TV. And if you have that mask off, if it's not fitted right, you're not going to make it out. So there are a lot of things involved. And I really have a great admiration for these guys who spend their whole lives as firemen because their wives don't know if they're coming back the next day.
Yes. So tell us, what do you have to do to become a fireman? What's the qualifications? Where do they need to go?
First of all, you have to catch, there are 2 fire departments here in Monroe. One of them is with the city of Monroe. You would have to apply with the city of Monroe. The other one is Washita Parish, which you would have to apply with the police jury. Then they would sign you up to take a test. I would recommend you go to the library because they can give you some pointers on how to take the test. It's not a very hard test, but it is a test in which you need to know a few things like basic English and math, how to respond in the public, how to take orders. But once you take that test, then that is the easy part. Then the part comes where you have, if you're selected, you have a training period, which lasts about 6 weeks, which is very physically exhausting. But there are also a lot of classes. You know, most firemen now are emergency medical technicians, which means you have to know a lot about the human body and anatomy and how to save lives and CPR and all of those things. But if you pass those things, the benefits are great. And the way they have them situated here is you work 24 hours on and 48 off. So you have a lot of time off. But it works out real well for everyone because most of them have other jobs. So they have, most of them are avid fishermen, hunters. So they get a chance to do what they like to do also.
Wow. Wow. You know, when I was a rookie police officer, I thought, you know, not long after I had completed the academy, and I had gotten a call to a fire. And when I went out there, of course, I'm taking the report, and of course, the fire was extinguished. But of course, you can still, it was smothering and so forth, with the smoke and all of that. And so I'm looking for the fire marshal now because, I'm a rookie police officer, so I'm doing the report. And they told me the fire marshal was on the back side of the building on the other side. And, the ceiling, everything it was just a shell of a wall. That's all it was. And just when I was about to walk to the back side over there, and I got stopped, and someone was asking me questions. And then, this is so true. Then all of a sudden, the wall in the avenue, which I had planned to walk, had fell over.
Oh.
And, I would have been right there in his path.
That's right.
So I learned something that day.
Well, interesting enough, being a fireman, the first time I just got out the academy, so I hadn't fought a fire. I've never fought a fire before. But the old lumberman's place, lumber mill that was on Louisville Avenue, caught on fire. And I mean, it was a massive fire, and I just couldn't wait. And I saw it. I drove all the way from the south side of town just to go up there to see it. And I saw my fire chief, and I said, please let me fight fire. Let me fight fire. He said, well, you don't have your uniform. He said, if you had your uniform, I'd let you fight. I flew all the way back to the south side and got my uniform out of the fire station, come back up there. And he set me on a hose. He didn't let me get in the fire, but he set me on a hose where I could spray on the fire. I sat there from 11 o'clock that night until 6 o'clock that morning. And I was as happy as I could be just because of that first time experience. And I can imagine that's how most firemen feel when they get to fight a fire.
Wow. Wow. For those of you that are listening to this right now, he just gave you some information as if you want to become a fireman, he just told you where you need to go, to your local city department or county department, whichever state you may be in. And of course, and there are some qualifications, some things you have to go through, but you can achieve those goals. And don't get disappointed if you don't get it the first time around. That's just like anything that you apply for. That's to achieve correct. In anything, you may have to apply maybe 10, 20, maybe 100 times. But if you set your mind and set that goal that you're going to do this, you will get it. I have a saying that I often say all the time, that yard by yard is hard, but inch by inch is a cinch. So if you keep on inching your way there, you keep on applying and you keep on pursuing, eventually you will get what you so seek to achieve. There's that scripture, you reap what you sow. And there's a whole lot of books written about how to achieve and being successful in life. And here I have with me Ross Slags, who I've always saw as someone successful. But Ross, tell me this. Who was your inspiration? Who encouraged you to do the things that you did? Of course, the positive outcome that you have achieved so far.
Well, my mother and father were a tremendous influence over my life. A lot of people didn't know my father as well as they knew my mother. She achieved ranks beyond measure. She was the first African-American woman or African-American to become head of the Louisiana Association of Educators. She, back in those days, even in the 60s, she was a French teacher. She started out as most African-Americans in that time who were graduated as nurses, but they were not allowed to practice as nurses. So that's why we had so many brilliant teachers, because they all became teachers. My father, on the other hand, he was a working man who also was in the Korean War. But what he was is he liked working with his hands, but he rose up into the ranks of a union officer where he worked at Selig Manufacturing. The interesting thing about him is that he achieved his and he only had a GED. So on opposite ends of the spectrum, they made it work. And I always admired the way my father and his tenacity of work, his work ethic. And I think that's why I got a little bit from both of them, seeing their lives develop and how they pushed those younger than them to succeed. I remember when Charles Jones became senator, my mother was his campaign coordinator. And so I got to see all of these younger guys as they grew up and see how they progressed. But I wanted to go back to what you were saying about reaping what you sow. And that's what we have to do. That's what we all are doing. You know, I'm a master gardener and I'm proud of being one. I mean, that took a lot of effort. It was a lot of studying besides even going to school. But one thing I do know is that when you plant, say if you're going to plant a tomato and say beans, and you put them in the ground, there's certain things you got to do to let them come up. Once you got to water them, you got to weed them and all like that. But once they come up and you see the first two leaves on each one of them, they look exactly alike. They are called the true leaves. You don't know what that person or what that plant has become until those leaves fall off and the next ones come up after you have cultivated them properly. And that's what we got to do. We got to cultivate our kids, because when they're small, they all like true leaves. We don't know what they're going to be, but we got to give them all the nutrients that they need to branch out and to be what they want to be. And that's what we have to learn as adults, that it's not all about us anymore. We're trying to bring up other people.
Yes, yes. And thank you very much for saying that. You know, you said your mother taught French.
Yeah, she was a French teacher.
Hey,
she taught French and English.
Parlez-vous français? I may be using this wrong, but je vais bien monsieur-vous. Wow. You're talking about some great examples that you've had. You know, you're talking about trailblazers as well. And you just followed the same trail.
Yeah, and I mean, there are a lot of them. And just today, I just sat down with the former Mayo, and we talked for about an hour, hour and a half, and we just talked about things in general. And once you get into a position where you get to know people and they get to know you, and if they know that you're genuine and you think they're genuine, you make so many friends in life that can benefit you on how to live your life.
Yes. And not just that, you know, you talked about friends, the people that we meet along this way. The thing about networking is, you know, it helps us tremendously when it comes to other opportunities.
Right.
Because we get where we go a lot of times based on people who we know, contacts we made, relationships that we develop.
Right. One of the most important aspects of me being over the museum as executive director is being able to network. And I pride myself in my networking ability. I like to go out and meet people and network and pass cards out and give out ideas and like to follow up on them. And once they find out that you're generally interested in what they are doing, they would be more apt to help you and give you advice.
Yes. Folks, you've gotten some gold nuggets here today from someone who is successful, from someone who's always been successful in my eyes. And just based on his bio that he's provided to me, he's had tremendous success on numerous boards. And wow, you're talking about museum, the Northeast Louisiana African-American Museum, and as well as the International Alliance of Theatrical Agents and Stage Employees to this day as a union president, a former captain of the fire department. This guy reeks success. And if you just take just a piece of what he just shared with you, talking about reaping what you sow and other things, telling you, giving you some direction on what you can do, become a fireman. But see, the principles that he's talking about, it doesn't just apply to being a fireman or anything, it applies to everything. Ross? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, I was just about to say the main thing that I would like people to understand is that whatever accomplishment I have made is not because I went out and searched them, it's because God put me in that position. And you have to realize you got to put God first in your life. And I mean, that encompasses everything. If you want him to show you what he can do, you have to put your faith and your trust in him.
Yes.
And he'll direct your paths.
Yes. You know, I think if you look back on a lot of my videos on my channel, I reference God a lot in a lot of things, especially It seems that gotten me out of situations. It seems that there was no way out.
Right.
But God is the key. Ross Slags, I really want to thank you and appreciate you giving me the time to visit with you and to share America with you. It's not just America. This is around the world. And the thing about here, what we're doing here on this YouTube channel is here forever. The thing, what makes YouTube different from all these other social media platforms is it's a search engine. And the thing is, when people look up the name Ross Slags, they're going to eventually find this as well about you that will live forever when we're no longer on this planet. So as we're about to close here, if there's anything on your mind, on your heart, that you would like to say to this audience and those to come, I'll give you the final word.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank you for allowing me to come on your channel today. I know yesterday we had a little glitch because of the weather here, but things worked out well. I would like the people to understand that what you're doing, and there are people all over the world who are trying to instill the kind of things that you're trying to do. If you don't get one thing out of each time you listen to Robert's broadcast, please do something and apply it to your life. Like he says, and I'll always say, the last word is always with God. Let him lead you and everything will be all right. I would just like to thank you again for allowing me here for this moment.
And thank you as well. And for my audience, thank you for tuning in. And for those of you that have not subscribed to my channel, this is an opportunity right now, because what I do is I interview superstars from all around the country, those local stars that can help us. And we have a tendency to overlook these guys because we want to look for those on the big international and national stage, and we fail to see those right in our communities that can help us, such as Ross Slags. Words are powerful. Words are powerful. And especially when you apply and put these words into action. And Ross Slags, I thank you for your service and all the things that you've done. And I thank you for what you're going to do. And I pray to God that you continue to be a force and add more knowledge and blessings to people along this way in your path. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me again.